Would you believe I made this gravy in the microwave with just 2 ingredients? I'm going to show you exactly how I did it, but first I have to do a bit of housekeeping. Bloop. And with that, I'm going to add to a measuring cup 2 cups of salted beef broth. And please don't argue with me in the comments if you'd rather use beef drippings, as Chef John would say. I hope I'm not misquoting him. You're the star of your own kitchen. You can replace the broth with drippings if you want, but I'm using beef broth. And I'm also going to reserve about 3 tablespoons of the broth, as I'm going to use that a bit later on for the cornstarch slurry. Now I'm going to add the beef broth to a large microwave safe bowl. If you have one of those large Pyrex glass measuring cups, you can certainly use that as well. I just chose to use a bowl for this video because I felt it was more visually appealing. And with that done, I'm going to move on to the next step in the process. So I'm just going to set this bowl aside. And then what I'm going to do is bring over the prep bowl with the reserved broth from earlier. And to this bowl, I'm now going to add 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. For this video, I used broth that was room temperature, which will work fine, but ideally you want to use broth that is cold for the best results, and that's to ensure there's no clumping of the cornstarch. And you're just going to whisk the cornstarch together with the broth until it is fully dissolved and has formed into a slurry, as you can see on the screen. And then once that's done, you're just going to set that bowl aside and bring back over the bowl with the beef broth. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add that cornstarch slurry to the bowl with the beef broth. Now, as you can see on the screen, the cornstarch will give the broth a really chalky-like appearance, but that will correct itself once you heat it up in the microwave. And you're just going to whisk the slurry and broth together for around 15 to 30 seconds to ensure there's no clumping. And then once that's done, you're going to place it in the microwave, and you're going to heat it up on high for around 2 minutes initially. You don't want to cook it longer than that because then the cornstarch will tend to gelatinize, and also the gravy won't heat evenly, as the microwave, unlike convection stovetops, tend to warm food from the inside out. And after the initial 2 minutes, you're going to carefully remove it from the microwave, as it will be hot, and you can already see the color starting to change back to what it should be. You're then going to briskly whisk the broth and cornstarch slurry again for another 30 seconds to ensure no clumping. Ultimately, we're doing this to keep the cornstarch in constant motion as it heats up, because otherwise it will coagulate into that gummy-like substance in the gravy. And once that's done, we're just going to place it back in the microwave and warm it on high heat for an additional 2 minutes. And then after an additional 2 minutes have passed, you're going to remove it from the microwave once more in order to whisk it again. Now, if you notice, the gravy is really starting to thicken. It's not quite done yet, but you can see the cornstarch really working its magic now that it's been fully activated by the heat. And again, we're just going to briskly whisk it for an additional 30 seconds to keep that cornstarch from clumping up before it's finished thickening the broth. So now we're just going to take the bowl and we're going to place it back in the microwave once more to warm it up on high heat for 2 more minutes. So if you do the math, it took 6 minutes to make the gravy you see in this video. If you have a higher wattage microwave, this can be done in as little as 5 minutes. If you have a lower wattage microwave, it may take as long as 9 minutes. The exact cook time will vary slightly depending on the microwave you own. And for what it's worth, I also tested this off camera with my 900 watt microwave, and it took 8 minutes to get the same results. And I'm just giving it one last stir again to ensure there's no clumping. And regardless of how long it takes or what microwave you use, you should still stop and whisk it every 1.5 to 2 minutes or 2 to 3 times. Not to mention, it will also continue to thicken as it cools. You can also find my stovetop recipe for beef gravy on my channel page, and I hope you like, share, and subscribe for more recipes. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.